Welcome, everybody, to this evening event. I am so grateful for everybody that is here live and will be watching on the replay because I have just a lovely, lovely colleague that I am so grateful she is spending her time here with us to share her story, her insights, her wisdom. And, just I am excited because I think it could help a lot of people in different areas of where they're at. So that's why I brought her. And we had a challenging time finding the title for this because she really is multidimensional. That's why we called it, really building your multidimensional career because we are not one trick ponies. We have so many different facets of us. So, I really want to highlight that, especially as women, to realize like we have many facets. We don't just have one title, one job, or one thing. We really excel in a lot. So for those that don't know me, I'm Dr. Diana Londoño. I'm a urologist in Los Angeles, and I'm the founder of physiciancoachsupport.com. It's a free confidential platform for any physician to come and get support with a peer who's also a life coach who could help you in anything, maybe a decision, maybe you feel overwhelmed, maybe you need to talk about a discussion you had with your partner or at work that was challenging and you want to process, or you sometimes need permission to say it's okay to do something or not. So it's confidential. It really is about, being there supportive for you because we know that burnout is real. Many of us have been through it, and we really want to get to a better place where we're joyful, we're happy, we find purpose. So that could be just a starting point to get you to a better place. So every month we have these talks, different physicians coming in, giving us their insight, tools, ideas that hopefully can get us to a better place. And that really is the goal of all this. So again, I am just grateful that we have Dr. Baumgaertel here today, and she's going to really share her story about, how she was private practice and everything that happened throughout, and just give us some wisdom. So thank you, Susan. Thank you for being here with us. I'm really appreciative of you being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super jazzed. And we're both on the West Coast, so isn't that awesome?
Yes, yes, thank you. And we share a lot of different loves like art and music and writing, and we connect in those levels. But even knowing you for a long time on social media, there's so much about you that I didn't know. And I really want to kind of go back to your practice, just in medicine. And maybe if you can tell us, about your practice and then how then you transition, because I think it could be helpful for many physicians that, maybe are still at the end of their career, middle or beginning, and start feeling like they're counting down to retirement. And again, I shared with you earlier that I just had somebody on LinkedIn that we connected telling me how they really are counting down to retirement because they have seen the changes in medicine in 20 years and they feel disappointed and disheartened. So I want to sort of give a different view of what we can all do with all the skills that we have.
Yeah, so I'm from Seattle, grew up in Ontario, Canada, came back to Seattle, and actually my degree prior to med school was in architecture and urban planning. So a whole nother story on that one. Went through med school, residency and beyond. I was chief resident and then started private practice. And I was actually physician owner shareholder in a very large multi-specialty group here in Seattle. And I worked full-time, both inpatient, outpatient, eventually just outpatient, for 25 years. So internal medicine, that was my gig. So a lot of primary care. And within my practice over the years, I had many different facets. So I ran kind of what I'd say a concierge light or mini concierge practice. It was called Partnership in Health. And I had for 7 years a program called Many for Change. It was kind of weight management wellness program. And then, toward the end of my tenure there, I pivoted. I decided, and it wasn't really, honestly, it wasn't just a COVID issue, it wasn't a pandemic problem, but there are many things that kind of built up to a boiling point for so long. And I don't even think I really kind of embraced that word burnout. I just felt like I had to leave. And I decided to leave on my own terms. So I wasn't fired. I didn't retire. I resigned and I walked away from this pretty lucrative, fabulous, feather in my cap career to like nothing. And that was kind of like a save myself moment because, obviously hindsight's 2020. And I look back and kind of like, why did I do that? How did I do that? Holy cow. But I think what I did was, without even realizing it, I was creating space and time to just rest. And I think after crying for 2 weeks because I missed my patients, I then slept for another 2 weeks. And I kind of started to regain that creativity and the passion that, of course, had been there all along, but was kind of squelched. And I started to kind of think, like, what else can I do? I'm still a physician. I still want to be of service to people, but I knew I could do it in a different way. So I'm happy to talk about any of those spots along the way, but that's kind of the nutshell.
Yeah. So I guess, you really, when you decided to leave, you didn't really have a plan yet of what the next step was. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think honestly, this is where many people, I'm just guessing, can really get hung up. They
Hmm.
feel like, because when you think about it, what are we trained for? Like, you have to get top scores to get into med school. You're going through med school and you have to pass and do well. And then you're going kind of gunning for residencies, or maybe they're fellowships. And, then you have a job. And so there's always like, do the best, be the best, work, 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 work. And you never think of, like, what if I go and move on to nothing? I mean, it never enters your head. And so but when you have that rest and
Yeah.
that pause moment, oh my gosh, you suddenly realize, wow, I've gotten to this place already. And I have these skills that look, I've honed over all these years. Then you learn how to trust yourself again and find that next passion.
Yeah, I really love that. And it actually is very similar to my story, my first job at a residency, where I worked, a year and a half straight, like weekends, every single weekend. And I was so burned out. That was the burnout number one. But, I did the same thing. I quit my job ahead of the time that I was supposed to be there for 2 years. And I said, no more, I'm leaving. And I will actually give you a little more time if you take out my non-compete, which in Florida, they still have them. And they actually agreed in my terms. Otherwise, I was going to leave that day, honestly, because I was just tired of, this place was not going anywhere good. And yeah, I actually didn't have a plan either. But the thing is, this is exactly what happens. You rest, you sit back, and then you are able to come up with all these ideas, because when you're not in survival, when you're not in a stress state, creativity flourishes. And then I was kind of like, okay, 2 weeks, now what? And then I was a little bored and I'm like, what am I going to do next? And I decided to start private practice, and I didn't have any knowledge about it. I didn't never knew somebody close to me that had really done it. But you figure this stuff out, it's doable. Like if that's what you want to do, or you could do something else. Like you're going to talk about your next pivot. But as you said earlier, pivot is not a dirty word. Pivot is a great thing we should all embrace, because, if it doesn't work, why are we trying to put our feet in a shoe that doesn't fit anymore? Let's figure out something else. Realize rest is so crucial. And sometimes you may just need a couple of days just to rest and still stay in your job that you are in. But we have to really realize how sleep, how rest, how stepping back can really give us a lot of perspective to really gather our thoughts, gather our priorities, our beliefs, and really then get us back into whatever that North Star is for us. So I would like you to then tell us that now that you rested and you slept and you obviously cried about your patients, what happened next to really get you to starting, MD Advocate, and what that is.
Yeah, so I didn't really clearly see what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to shift away from in-person care, not because I didn't love the hugs and all the interactions with people. I actually miss that. I can tell you how I've overcome that. But truthfully, I just thought, I was dealing with concern for exposures, and that, this is early on in COVID. I thought, what if my next career path is telemedicine? And, long before the pandemic, I was actually this telemedicine queen. We kind of, I was piloting these things. I actually had free visits in my program, long story. But so when the pandemic hit and like everything was shut down, it's like, oh, I can do this. So literally, I mean, I went from a packed waiting room to a packed telemedicine platform. And everyone was like, how did you do that? Even within my organization, they hadn't done it yet. So it was almost like this, best kept secret. Of course, now everyone does that, right? So, but I thought, like, hey, can I do something along those lines? So I'm still being a service to people. I'm still being a physician. I'm still drawing on my expertise and my kind of long experience, but how can I market myself, So there are a lot of stumbling blocks. And I think the things that I did that I really kind of now look back and say, oh, of course, were researching. That fell short many times because I couldn't quite see someone who was doing what I wanted to do or what I envisioned. And then this kind of almost accidentally, I thought like, oh, I'll have a focus group. And so I had 2 different Zoom focus groups. They're like 25 people each, so it's 50 people. And these were all former patients of mine. They were like, where are you? We want to see you. And so I had to like this kind of love fest. And it was really, really emotional. But I had a little 10-minute spiel, and then the whole thing was wide open Q&A. Anybody put their hands up and ask questions. And what I did was, with their permission, I videotaped them and I said, this will never see the light of day. Only I will watch it so I can take notes, And I learned, what did people want? What were their price points? What did they not want? What were they missing? What were they lacking? And so I started to stack this all up and then gradually, form this, idea, which was my MD advocate. And, I will say that the fun part was seeing people again and being of service. The scary part was, interestingly, is what would my colleagues think? So here I am, we're so used to operating in little silos. You get so busy, you have 14, 18, 16-hour days, whatever hour days. You're busy, you come home, you do charts, you're on call, your pagers go. I mean, like life as a physician, for the most part, is just so freaking busy. And so do you have time to sit around chatting with your colleagues? No, you don't, unless it's about a patient that that you're taking care of. And so I kind of thought like, oh, so are my colleagues going to see me as a competitor or a threat? Like, what is she doing out there? So I overthought that, which is my fatal flaw. It's like, oh, well, that's not good. But then I realized, you know what? I've just got to do it. Just got to do it. And so the more I interact with people, the more they shared the power of what I was doing with their doctors, or plural, or physicians. And the more it came back to me like, oh, what she's doing is a safety net. I'm filling the little gaps that, that aren't pluggable. They're so busy, maybe they're booked out 6 weeks, but, oh, you can see me tomorrow in the morning and we can talk about things, strategies to tie you over. Or you've just had a visit and now you have all these questions and Lord knows they don't have more time. So, oh, let's go over those questions. So it was like this, like I was the hidden team member. And to me, that was an organic thing that grew over time. And it's one thing I was really happy about.
Yeah, so maybe for those that don't truly know what MD advocate is, can you tell them a little more like what do you actually do? Because you kind of hinted that you were sort of filling the gaps and you were not really their primary physician, but you're basically an ally really to the patients and the physicians, your colleagues. But maybe explain a little more for those that are interested in what this is, this model, and then what you really created that isn't really out there that I'm aware of. And I think it is really filling that huge need, as you say. Physicians are overbooked, don't have the time in 12 minutes to go through all the questions, concerns, bring them back for follow-up questions. And so you're really doing a great service, and maybe explain it better than I just did what you were
Yeah.
doing.
I think you did a good job. There are many reasons, I have a website, of course, with all the bells and whistles, and the website lists all these things you can see me for. But I think that, people come maybe with one thing, and then before you realize there are 5 things I can help them with. So maybe they're actually doctor shopping. They want a primary care doc because we know how really hard it is to find a primary care doc. Well, okay, that's easy to talk about. Maybe not easy, but I can kind of give them ideas of, where they live and where they can be seen. And by the way, this is for Washington State patients. And then in conversation, maybe it turns out like, oh, yeah, my cardiologist wanted me to start Crestor, but oh, I don't want to be on that medicine. And then we have this conversation. And, the really nice thing is I'm still on active staff at one of our local regional centers. I've been on active staff since 1995. So I can get into all their electronic records with their permission, of course. And I can look, oh, yeah, cholesterol is super high. Oh, you've tried these. And, I can in a very short time assimilate all this data and say, you know what? Your cardiologist is right. And here's why you need this drug. And here's what you need to think about doing it. And here's when you need to follow up. And so I've then reinforced that cardiologist plan without them knowing it. And the patient's like, oh, this is so helpful. I didn't have time for that at my office visit. New diagnosis, like let's say they have cancer and the visit with their oncologist is 3.5 weeks out. That may not go well, especially if they're not sleeping at night worrying about their cancer, or if it's an aggressive one. So I can, again, help them navigate systems. I am not married to any medical center, so I can help people in all different systems, which really is nice because I feel like I'm Switzerland. There's just freedom there to be able to kind of serve people in that need. folks who, of course, they want to talk about menopause or weight management or stress management or caregiving issues, all those things I can negotiate. And even medical problems. I had this one gal who's, 4 hour, actually probably ferry ride, plane trip, or an 8 hour car ride, basically a long ways away from Seattle. And I was doing a visit with her and I thought, something's not right. She just looked tired. And then she had one, Apple Watch. And she's like, yeah, my O2 sat was down. It's like, after about a few minutes, like my spidey senses going on, it's like, you need to hang up and you need to go to the ER, which is off island. So long story short, the ER doc called, said, yeah, she had a pulmonary embolism. You saved her life. It's like, oh. So this is, I say that not to self-exonerate, but I'm not a tour guide. I actually use my medical knowledge and I can kind of not care for people, but I can nudge them and understand kind of where they need to get care. And I think that's something I'm really happy with.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I do want to also, what struck me, what you were saying, one of the fears you had, which you kind of squashed later, but, what will my colleagues think? And it made me think of somebody else I had previously, Dr. Lana, who's a urologist, trained in robotic surgery. And then she pivoted as well into like this aesthetics, really empire that she has in New York City. And one of her biggest sort of fears she also had is, what will my urologist colleagues like think of me, or other colleagues that,
Yeah.
why is she moving to this and why is she doing that? And obviously everybody has a different why, and her why is really important. Her children are special needs, and her lifestyle was important and a lot of things. But you know, we always have these fears, and you know, she still decided to obviously do it, and I guess she's very successful. And at the end of the day, people are now coming to her to get training and all this stuff. And so in a way, what I'm trying to say is there will always be these concerns that come up that are natural, normal. But when you get rooted in your why, is what's sort of guiding you to continue the course when all these things, fears, concerns, worries come up, because that's normal. So I would want to maybe know what your why was, to keep you going when all these thoughts were coming into your mind.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking now, what really connected the dots was, I said when I left my previous practice, I cried because I missed that touch. I missed the
Mm.
human part of it, the connection, like not just through a computer screen. But what I did, which was almost purposeful at the start, but became very organic and natural after a very short period of time, I started having coffee dates.
Mhm.
Coffee dates, tea dates, walking, talking, just basically meeting up one-on-one with my colleagues. And almost all of them were in person in the area. And vast majority were specialists, subspecialists, and surgeons, but a handful of primary care as well. And it was really amazing because what I thought would be a quick cup of coffee would be like a 4 hour conversation. And some of them were like, oh my God, I want to join you. It's like, well, no, I'm here in my house. You can't really join me. But they started to realize what I was doing and how I was excited about it, and how my excitement and my energy was so was very very
Probable.
enthralling. And
Mhm.
then what I saw, which was actually so painful in a way, I saw absolute devastating fatigue in almost every person I spoke with. And it was just like, I just thought, oh my God. And some were like, I don't know what to do. I want to do something different. I said, you know what? You can't think right now. You don't have any bandwidth, zero. You have no energy. You cannot possibly be creative because you're so overwhelmed and buried. And so they're kind of nodding, but not really understanding. Oh my gosh, it's almost like a proud mother moment. This is over the last 2.5 years I've been doing this. Many of them are coming back to be like, oh, I'm doing this now, or oh, this is great, or like, you really helped me. And I just like, oh my gosh, you helped me too. It's, I didn't charge for any of that because I was getting that lifeline as well. And to me, that was the important part because I wanted to always stay connected to my colleagues as well as my patients. And that was just like, I am so thankful for that part.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of cherry on top of all this, which, when you go into these new adventures, new pivots, you don't really know what may come out of it. And then you get all these gifts through the journey that are just so meaningful. And I could probably say as well with physician coach support. I mean, I don't know, what I was expecting or not, but through the journey, just again, meeting people like you and all the people that have come in my life just from being vocal or promoting it. I mean, I think that to me is like success. I mean, people can say however metric they use, but to me is that connection, that time with people that makes time fly, because you're having these conversations that are meaningful. You're helping people in something that maybe they're not sure about, that, they almost need your permission for you to cheer them. And to me, again, that's what success means. That's what keeps me excited and going when, things get tough and things don't work and things, on the metrics, people want to call it this or that. But I think that is so essential. So for you, I really am hearing that is that human connection, that you continued, and that you were still able to help, again, not just the patients, but through the process and through talking to colleagues, really even help them in ways you didn't imagine. So I think that's,
Yeah.
such a
I
powerful thing.
there's so many examples I can't tell in detail because that's violating patient confidentiality. But there's one I can talk about, a man who's passed away from cancer, who came to me, and he had a pretty aggressive cancer that had come back from a surgical operation. And honestly, his primary care doc, who didn't meet him, but my chart, oh my gosh, said, oh, like, I'll refer you to so and so, an oncologist, and his appointment was 4 weeks out. And when I met him, I thought, like, you may not be here on this planet 4 weeks from now. And
Mhm.
so I, put a lot of energy and effort, got him into someone very quickly, and ultimately didn't save his life. But you know what happened? The day he passed, he was in the hospital. His family were around his bedside, and one of them had their phone and had me linked in, and here on the phone. And he had this beautiful smile, and he was thanking me. I'm gonna cry, thanking me. And I'm thinking, he was talking about his life well lived. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, this is why I do it, and to think of that one person, I can help thousands of people, but that one person that I made a difference for, I mean, that keeps me going.
Yeah, that's so special. Again, I think the metrics that we sometimes use in society of success, are they the right ones? I don't know, but just something to think about. And we have to have our own metrics of what gives us joy and success and fulfillment, and that's what it's about. So if it's social media followers, is it dopamine from that? Is it being famous, rich? I mean, I don't know. Everybody has their own thing that is going to be important for them. And again, a life well lived, when you are in your last breath, what will be meaningful to you? What will you think about? Is it all the cars? Is it all the purses? Is it the connections? Is it the people that helped you or you helped? I mean, I don't know. We'll all get there, and we'll have to think about that. And
Yeah.
you not only did MD Advocate, which is definitely pivoted different than a new program system that has not really been done before, but you also at the same time, because you had done these other sort of niche specialty practice within your practice, because you kept seeing women, going through the transition menopause, that you decided also to do something about that kind of almost at the same time. So can you talk to people about not only your book, the Menopause Menu, and the website that is really a resource of information? Obviously, your book is there, you can get it, but you're also doing this too, which is a very creative endeavor. It's a beautiful piece of art. It also maybe want to mention with the cover what it is. But how did you also come about this, and was this something that you dreamed about before when you were in practice, maybe in survival mode? Was this all happening when you took the pause? Was it maybe after that you decided to do something? How did this come about?
Yeah, I think the website was first, and that was I launched that September of 2020. That was my pandemic passion project for
Okay.
sure. And it wasn't that I wasn't busy; it's just I needed an outlet. And obviously, as a female physician in primary care, many, many, many women would see me, and of course, a day wouldn't go by where I wouldn't have at least one or two or three women, complaining about not getting the right information and getting so frustrated, and they didn't know where to go for their data. And so all of this was swimming around my head for so long. I thought, I can have a website. And so that was a learning curve in itself in terms of getting a website that's free and it's information. It's funny because it's still a website today that's functional. It has 3 different blog components, so stories and videos like podcasts and so forth, and actual recipes as well. But under the information tab, there's 16 different sections. And guess what? Those sections correlate with the chapters of my book. So fast forward to when I pivoted and started my MD Advocate. And of course, I was now the master of my own time, and I had time. I thought, like, gosh, I should write a book now. And that was a whole new challenge, because of course, being an author for the first time is very daunting, learning how to self-publish and how to market as well. But yeah, the idea really was born from all of those years of caring for so many women who were frustrated. And, they could go to a medical website, but then they have to look up every third word. It's confusing. It's just too much. Or they can go to the snake oil salesman side and it's just garbage. So I thought, like, whoa, how do I have something that is straightforward, but doesn't dumb it down, and is not a medical reference book, but has some good data in it? And then my wheels started spinning, all that fun stuff kind of popped out. Like, yes, I'll have recipes on each chapter. And oh yeah, I'm going to have poetry and haiku and quotes. I think I quoted you. And then, the cover, which is, I don't know if people can see that, is actually from a big painting. It's a very large painting that my mother did. She was an artist. And it's a picture of a woman. It was from the mid-1980s, when she did a lot of life drawing, which is drawing from the nude figure in an art gallery in Peterborough, Ontario. And I remember coming with her a few times. But she finished out one of these quick sketches, and it was so beautiful. It's a woman from behind, so it's something I can put in a book cover, right? Because you have to worry about content. And it had this vibrancy. There's a lot of movement in that picture, and yet almost like a wistfulness, like she's looking off to the distance, and she's unsure about herself, and she looks to me vulnerable. Of course, she's naked, and so I thought, gosh, that's going to be perfect for the cover. I have one of her other works of art in one of the chapters on body image, which I like very much as well. But that was in my head, because really, and I'm going back to the little girl moment, back in the 60s, 70s, when, what do you have on the coffee table? Oh, you had these beautiful books that were huge. They're art books. And maybe it's Emily Carr, The Group of Seven, or Degas, or Renoir, whoever. And you'd open it up and there's this big picture, and you'd spend 5 minutes drooling over this gorgeous picture, maybe read the caption or read a couple things, and you close it up because you have, life's busy. I thought, I'm going to have a menopause book that you don't have to read from cover to cover. You can just open it up and maybe for 5 minutes learn something, and experience some beauty and art at the same time. So that's what I did.
I love it. And yeah, for those that haven't bought it, definitely do recommend it. It's beautiful. It's in color. It does have, yeah, these different chapters that if you just want to learn about, one vaginal dryness, and then that's what you want to just go into that chapter alone. You don't have to read the whole book cover to cover, like you say, and you can kind of learn more about it, get some stories, get some information that is not, like you say, snake oil, that is based on evidence, and it can be helpful because, half of the world's population is going to go through menopause, and it's not just about hot flashes. So, there's such a big movement now to teach women and empower women. And, there's many books and there's many, Instagram things about it, but I do love, how you did it and it was true to you. And also something we talked about earlier was, many authors, when they are writing their book, they really start just reading and immersing themselves in everything about that topic. And for you, it was different. And I really appreciate that you did that and you shared that, because again, it's like, do what's true to you, what aligns with what works, because that is, true to you. And you did something
Yeah.
differently. So can you share that?
It was really funny because it wasn't until you asked me just a little while ago what I did. We were talking about reading books, and I kind of decided I would wall myself off. I didn't read anything about menopause when I was writing this, even in Washington Post or New York Times. I mean, basically nothing. And there's lots of books coming out, kind of like right the wave. And I didn't want people, friends of mine and colleagues, like, oh, have you read this? Like, no, I don't want to read it. Because what I didn't want was even like subliminally to start kind of like coughing up information that I'd read somewhere. I wanted it from my experiences. And I guess you could also say I didn't want to plagiarize anybody, but what I did when I went through this kind of process of how to write a book and get a certain number of editors, and getting a design editor, because the layout of the book was important. Like, I think of it like an art book almost. I decided, and this was kind of last minute, not to have an index. Most medical textbooks, or books, are going to have an index because you want to look stuff up, like, oh, what pages can I go to see hot flashes? No. I wanted it chapter, and I wanted it like each chapter is going to be devoted to a subject. And within that chapter, you can find information, but it's not like it's 50 pages. It's a very short amount. It's easy to digest. And so I thought I don't need an index, and then I don't have to list my sources or resources. And so that's kind of, I thought, this is going to be from me. It's not going to be quoting all the things I've read lately. Of course, now I'm super happy it's out because now I can start reading again.
Yeah, but I love that because again, it's being true to you. And I think our physician mentality is like just stay the course, even if you're gonna do this, even if it's different than the 8 to 5 or whatever medicine is, it's like do it this way because everybody's doing it. It's like do it your way. Don't put an index because you don't want to have an index. Do it your way. And I think also was important to know is like you didn't know how to do all this, but you like figure it out. I mean, I think that's why there's YouTube, that's why there's Google. You can start there, but definitely talk to people on how to like find an editor, like collaborate, ask this person. We can figure this out, and we can break it down to small pieces to get that goal, whatever it is. So, nobody is born knowing how to, do a book, write a book or publish it or edit or get any of this stuff done. But it's like we can figure this out. I just want to sort of emphasize for physicians that feel like I don't know how to do that. Like I'm not an author. You're never going to be an author until you write a book. You're never gonna, be a solopreneur until you become one. So just take that step and then the next one and the next one and just keep going. And then don't let the fact that you're not that person, that expert thing yet, hold you back.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, you, like I say, are definitely multidimensional. And you not only did you start your soul practice, which is a new model that I have not seen, you started a book, a menopause website with a lot of resources, but you also along the line have been an advocate and an activist, for cancer. And you work with a nonprofit called Cancer Lifeline. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, this is near and dear to me. Cancer Lifeline is a local, regional place, but now that we're all, thank you, pandemic, not now that we're all connected online to everything, it's probably a national, international resource. So cancerlifeline.com. Cancer Lifeline is a nonprofit. It's been around for 50 years. It serves everyone who's impacted by cancer, which guess what is all of us. And all of its services are free. So they have oodles of classes. A lot of them are online now because the pandemic kind of we were first in the region to put everything online. Yoga and art therapy and reading and writing and cooking and lots of different support groups. And the support groups are very close, so they're not on video or anything, and they're very close knit. Some of them are very specific. It's BIPOC with head and neck cancer, or it's for young adults, or it's for women who have metastatic disease, or if it's so a whole panoply of different organizations. So Cancer Lifeline, cancerlifeline.org is the website. I actually came into an awareness of Cancer Lifeline about 20 years ago. I served on the medical advisory board. I took care of a lot of people who had worked there and executive directors and such, and people who donated. And over many years, I was always affiliated with them until 8 years ago or 6 years ago, I was a board member, and then I eventually became president of the board. So I was really at the helm. And I'm, now that we have term limits. I think term limits are really healthy for a nonprofit board. So I'm turned off, but I'm still very much affiliated in terms of my love of what they do and my support for what they do. And I can certainly, if we have time, talk about my own journey with cancer, which put kind of a wrench in the whole machine. But I just really am grateful for the ability to know that that's a resource for people who might be scared or stressed or anxious or just kind of want some extra services.
Yeah, I think that's, fantastic that, it is out there. And I've seen some of the research, the things they do, which is just so, again, filling in those pockets, those needs that are not supported, in cancer centers or, even your primary oncologist, because there just isn't that space or that time for that, emotional component or that psychological component. And of course, maybe you can cure cancer, but it comes with a lot of things with it, how it affects our spiritual health or obviously our emotional or physical, our ability to do or not do things that sometimes maybe we're not focused on. We're just focused on are you cancer free, but forget everything else that goes along with it. And it's so crucial to have these organizations to again fill in those gaps. And I just love that you started for so long, you continued it, and it's sort of like a theme of, continuing your passions, outside of medicine. In a way, it's kind of cliche, but it is a lifeline for you, for all of us, to continue to do things that brings us a purpose and a joy. And I think all these things really are a way to then get out of burnout, to feel that you are living a life of purpose, when we are aligned with things that, again, are a service to others, bring joy, can educate, can help, and use our skills in different ways. Again, you know, your skills as a physician could definitely translate in being aboard something that is cancer related. I mean, you're not having a patient doctor relationship, but you can see where maybe there's gaps, and even with the work that they're doing, because you had that background as a physician. So all the skills we learn along the way, can be used in different facets of things that we have a passion for or interested for. And I think that's what really gives us purpose, is using our skills and being of service in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, so I love it. And, since we do have some time, I do want to, also talk about this new phase of your life too, which was recent. And it was way before you obviously became involved with Cancer Lifeline, with your own diagnosis of cancer. So maybe you want to share, what's been going on with that, and how you've been dealing with it, and going through it.
Yeah, so that's just been the past, 4 or 5 months. So that was a very new thing for me to be faced with a cancer diagnosis. Um, and, I think I can joke about this now, probably couldn't have done this a few months ago, but all these years, I've had countless patients ask me, like, what would you do if you had, and fill in the blank, whatever cancer it is they have. And I would always say, like, well, I don't have cancer. I don't have your cancer. So I don't really know what I would feel like having ovarian or pancreatic or whatever it is, the cancer that they're talking about. I can respond to you as a passionate, a caring physician, but I'm not a patient. So I thought, like, oh my God, now I can say I have cancer. This is interesting. But I actually go back to pre-med school. I wanted to be an oncologist. So I wanted to work with cancer patients. I did a research project actually before med school. I was in architecture, and I won a design for designing a pavilion for our local world famous cancer center, which is Fred Hutch. And so all these things in my brain, like, I want to work with cancer patients, I want to treat them. Fast forward to, I didn't do that, obviously, but throughout all these years, I've very much been enamored by helping people, either diagnosing them or treating them or helping them perhaps even toward the end of their life. And so when I had, my life hit the brick wall and feel like, oh my gosh, this is my turn, I realized a couple of things. And this is not one of these looking back in time and analyzing. This was real time, in the moment. Literally 5 minutes after I was diagnosed, this was what was going through my brain. I thought, number one, other people don't have the resources that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I know everyone in this town, so I know where to get help. And number three, I just read about my frickin' pathology report on my chart. Imagine if I weren't a physician, I could have maybe thought my life was ending. And so I thought, like, holy cow, I already have all of these things. And like in 16 hours, I had a video visit with a specialist with my husband next to me. I had already had two people, my primary doc and another specialist, call me, how you doing? I thought, oh my gosh, this is what people need more of. Because my patients, and historically almost anyone, like, imagine if you get results on a Friday at 4 o'clock. Yeah, good luck. You have to wait till Monday, assuming it's not a holiday. And then God knows it's 3. I mean, oh boy. So I felt instantly, weirdly grateful, because I thought, like, you know what? I have this huge safety net already. And the other fourth part of the thing that really did go through my brain is, many patients are faced with financial toxicity, and cancer is really, really hard. Like, it's copays, or it's like, do you have, you're managing your budget. Do you have enough money for groceries or the gas in the car? I mean, these are real life things. I thought, like, wow, I feel pretty blessed, because I don't have to worry about the groceries in the fridge or the gas in the car. So all these things were a blur. Yes, and I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, what about cancer? What about my treatment? And I'm doing well, thank you. But it was really in a weird way, I hate to say that tacky phrase, things happen for a reason, but things happen for a reason. And I do feel like whether we go through things that are horrible or maybe okay or not good at all, we learn from them. And so my growth, weirdly, I'm saying this growing, does it take
Middle of
years
it.
to grow? Yeah, but truly, I think my experience allowed me to feel like, wow, I am glad I'm doing what I'm doing for two reasons. Number one, I'm not in that pressure cooker, crazy 16, 18-hour day, which I could not have gone through this treatment and all that stuff if I was. And number two, I'm in this new venue where I can help people. And so weirdly, I've had several people with the same cancer reach out to me recently. It's like, I can help you even better.
Yeah,
So
now you've experienced it. Now I can really talk from experience because
yeah,
so
yeah.
I
So
agree. I think when we definitely go through, I mean, never, nobody wants cancer, nobody wants burnout, nobody wants all these things, but I do feel even for me, like all the hardships, whatever they were, whatever it was a difficult family, whether it was narcissistic mother, whether it's, going through burnout, it taught me so much. It really is what helps you get to the next growth phase. And it really, I am very thankful for it. If it wasn't for that, of feeling like a lot of pain for a lot of these things, I wouldn't have been here today and hopefully helping people from it. So I am very grateful. I don't think, I mean, I'm not a masochist. I don't want pain, but I do see that there's so much benefit from experiencing and coming from a place that like, I've been there. Like, I'm not just telling you do this, do that. And like, I've been there. This helped me. Um,
yeah, yeah.
Maybe it can help you too. For you, may be different, but I can get some idea of what you're feeling. Perhaps it may not be exactly the same, but we can find resources because I've sort of traveled those same steps. So I do think that even brings more validity to all the work that you're doing. And of course, nobody ever wants to have cancer, but I do sort of love this circle of what has happened in your journey to really be able to help people from just such a authentic place. You already are very authentic, but it's just so valuable. And I'm sure your patients and everybody you'll help in the future, will really, really benefit from that. And I do want to, sorry, go ahead. I do want to end sort of talking about, we know we talked about your book, that you're focusing on the menopause mini education, but maybe you can also talk about just writing, because you have blogs and you have chronicled, everything from, your growth of your business, from the book launches, marketing, from your, diagnosis. You'll talk more about it. Even your daughter, being in the service, being gone, all these things, and you're just writing, throughout this time, because I read your posts and your blogs and they're beautifully written. So can you talk about the role of writing through, just maybe your life or maybe your career?
Oh yeah, I think, actually I think writing is on the same continuum as art, it's expressing yourself. And I think they're really good writers. And there are those of us who write and hope that what we say makes sense. I always find that telling a story is essential for me. And so I can write about topics, but osteoporosis, that's boring. But if I talk about my latest DEXA and what it means, and maybe considering I'm high risk for breast cancer and yada yada, it's like, oh, this is more of a story. So I can almost, I don't know, I guess I'm good at spinning. I can spin anything into a story. I can go outside and look a bird in my bird bath and I can talk about bird baths and suddenly there's a story there somewhere. So I just think, seeing things around you, does it mean everyone wants to read my writing? No, that's fine. But it's an expression of me. And I think that connecting with others in that venue really is important to me. Writing a book, which is a very different kind of, I wouldn't say formal, but the very different process, because, writing a book and then you have to publish it and then you're marketing, that's a whole different writing style. But just my daily thoughts or my daily ideas, I think that's how I connect with others. And I've really enjoyed, as I can see several people on this webinar today, I really enjoy connecting with people in that venue. And to me, that's just, it's sharing the love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, definitely, writing was a big part of my healing. And again, before I wrote anything where I kind of published it anywhere, I was like, oh, am I a writer? Like, how can you be a writer? But I wasn't until I did it. And then it's like okay, one thing, I'm a writer, like I don't have to have a book published, but an article or even just a blog. I mean, you are a writer. And it really, I agree with you, the power of connection with others, whether you're writing a story style, blog or not, or just when people write something, you resonate, you're like, oh yeah, me too. Or, like you may not know them physically, but I feel like I know people just through the writing. I told Charity today, like, I'm like, I think I know you because I read your post. I resonate with what you're saying. I'm like, part of me has experienced that. And, you also kind of attract your tribe. Like, the things you put out there is like, what kind of comes back. So like the law of karma, you put out good, good comes back. You put out defamation, well, people are going to attack you. So, I want to put out good. I want to have people that are in the same wavelength of helping or writing or, really growing, and then, bring those people into my circle. And I think writing, it's just a way to do it because you're communicating. And it really has that great ability to heal. And again, you don't ever have to publish, you don't ever have to put on social media. But if you're struggling maybe with what to do or how to go about a decision, I think writing and just maybe burning it or deleting it, it's just a great way to get your thoughts, out of your brain and out of the chaos and just organize a little better to just kind of get to the next step and let go of that emotional weight and be able to then process it a little bit more clearly.
I think for physicians listening, this is important too, because it's like ingrained in us forever and ever and ever to be an expert in something before you're right about it.
Mhm.
And, this is a different kind of writing. It's actually, it makes you feel very vulnerable because you're putting yourself out there, and not everyone's going to like it. But if it's your story, no one can ever challenge that, ever. That's your story. And if you're expressing how you feel about your story, again, so I think that's the beautiful part of it. Yes, you're vulnerable, you're sharing some things with God knows the rest of the world, but this is not AI. This is really, really genuine, creative thought. And I think that is very healthy for us humans to keep doing.
Yeah, I think in the world of AI, which has this role, you can't lose the human component of what life is, like that connection, that, the way that somebody says something, you're like, oh, I said that too, and it transgresses, it goes over like the exterior shell that we all have, like, oh, well, you can look totally different, be a different age, socioeconomic class, race, anything, but you can connect in such a soul level, honestly. And I think that's what the beauty of it is, that it doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, younger, older, again, people in this call even tonight, like we are very different, totally different parts of, what we do or don't do, jobs or age, but there's a common theme that we feel there's a connection. And I think is about that soul or human. And I think that's really what's it about. So Susan, this has been, just such a wonderful, topic. I want to make sure that we do say, because somebody asked cancerlifeline.com. Is that correct? That's the name of the nonprofit?
Cancerlifeline.org.
.org. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
we'll make sure we have that on the show notes. And for people that, want to learn more about you, connect with you if they haven't already, where can people find you and what's the best ways to do so?
Yeah, I'm always happy to get emails. So my business is mymdadvocate.com. And I also have the free menopause website called Menopause Menu. And of course, my book, The Menopause Menu, which is available on Amazon. I love paper, actually holding a book, but you can get the ebook there as well. There's also an ebook available on Apple Books and on Barnes and Noble. But yeah, go paper. And I do have a course, who doesn't? I have a YouTube channel and a couple other places. And of course, I'm LinkedIn. But yeah, my website, My MD Advocate, is probably the best as far as getting my phone number and my email.
Well, thank you so much, Susan, and thank you for sharing. I'm glad we did have time to go through all these, and I'm sure this could definitely be longer because it's always, a pleasure to learn from you, to get ideas, to get inspired, and I really appreciate you and your vulnerability, your courage, your way that you have a way with words, that is really beautiful, and that you were able to just follow your passion. And I hope physicians are listening, really, even if you're not a physician, just take away that, you know, you need that pause that is needed to be creative and to figure out the next step. And when we're in survival, when we're not rested, when we're just hyped up on caffeine and trying to just get to the next day and counting days to retirement, that's a sign that maybe just a few days, maybe a week is what's needed to regroup, realign your priorities, think about things that you love, that you would want to do. It doesn't have to be in medicine, it could be in medicine, but you realize we have many, many, many talents, many skill sets that got us to a very difficult position as a physician. And so we can do anything else too. And use those skills, collaborate, talk to the people, and, really realize there's a better way. You don't have to be suffering. You don't have to be full of diseases because of the anxiety and the stress, and you really could be joyful. So I hope that you take it to heart, that you take that time to pause, that permission to take care of yourself. And if you're a physician or know a physician that could benefit from peer support, that is free, it's confidential, share physiciancoachsupport.com with them. You can also share this podcast so they can learn more about Susan, and it'll be always on YouTube. You can always share it there. But thank you everybody for being here tonight, and I really appreciate your attendance. So thank you.